Um, okay, recording, got the screen share. Sweet. Okay, so yeah, so here we are, study abroad nomination meeting. So as you all know, you've all been selected to study abroad next fall, and so it's really exciting, really kind of a milestone achievement. So congratulations to you all. But now the easy part's over in terms of applying. Now the kind of hard and nuts and bolts part starts, where you have to talk to the host university. You've got to get your visa squared away. You've got to do insurance stuff. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Really, there's just two parts of this. Two parts of the meeting. There's things that you have to do with the host university, where you're going to go study abroad next semester or next year if you're going for the year. And then there's also things that you've got to do with Sac State. So basically, by now, most of you, not all of you, because I haven't nominated all of you yet to the host university. Some of our partners, particularly in Korea, have really late deadlines. So I'm still waiting to do that. But most of you should have already been nominated to your host university, which means they have your information and they're going to start communicating with you. Once they start communicating with you, feel free to just reach out to them directly with questions that you have, because now you're like plugged into their network. A lot of the questions you're going to have are going to be, they'll be able to be answered by the staff at the host university. That's kind of their job now. I'm just here to support you and to kind of get you all sorted with the things you need at Sac State. But for the host university matters, talk to them. Start thinking about, visa. How do you have to get a visa to go to a country? And also your flight. So those are the kind of two things that you need to keep in mind right now. And also think about where you want to live when you do go abroad. So one thing I wanted to talk about real quick when you guys talk to the host university, try not to write emails like you're writing text messages. I know a lot of times I get emails from you and I think that, they're probably on your phone and you just want to text and stuff, and that's understandable. But really, you don't want people on the other end, foreign people, thinking they know English better than you. So try to be like polite, use formalities when you write things like dear, good morning, like use the name, and then close it, like best regards, kind regards, whatever, best, thank you, those kind of things. Like formatting is important because they give you, they project how professional, I guess, that you're being to other people. It's very important, especially nowadays, when pretty much we're being judged just based on emails that come on a screen. You all want to put your best foot forward. You want to exhibit professionalism. You want to exhibit maturity when you're talking to other people through email. And so probably the best way, the easiest way to do that is just to make it, when you're writing an email, try to be formal. That's just, it'll help you in life too, because a lot of times when you're applying for jobs and things, same deal. So be formal, always err on the side of formality in these kind of things. So just wanted to touch base on that before I get too deep into the presentation here. And then, hey, remember, you're representing the American educational system with your written communication. So you don't want our partners to think that they're not teaching you anything here at Sac State. So just kind of keep that in mind. And that last point as well, you can extrapolate that to when you do go abroad. One of the things you're going to find is that you're going to be judged based on being an American. That's going to be a much more important part of your personality and your identity now than it ever has been before you've gone abroad, because people are going to see you, they're going to judge you based on nationality. They're going to have a lot of very strong opinions about what being an American means, and so they're going to kind of treat you like that. So you're going to, one of the things that you'll find when you go abroad is you become a representative for the country, and it can be kind of a big shock when when that happens to you. So keep that in mind. And it starts when you're corresponding with foreign people abroad. You're kind of the representative of Sac State, and we want you to take that responsibility seriously. Be proud of your school, be proud of what you're learning here, and just take that with you when you're going abroad. Okay, so that's my disclaimer about that. Moving on here, everybody who goes abroad is going to need to get a visa when they go abroad. Most of the time, you're going to get a student visa. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, then when we get done with this meeting, or even now if you wanted to, just do a Google search for the country that you're going to and then student visa. And that'll tell you information about the process and like what you need to do, what kind of documents you need, where you need to go to apply. Do you need to apply online? Do you have to actually go somewhere in person? These are good things to start thinking about now, because getting the visa is going to be the most time consuming part of all this. And it's something that you pretty much have to do yourself. You're not actually able to apply for your visa until you get documents from the host university. So don't run off and try to apply without that. Like, you need to get your acceptance documents first. And your host university often will tell you what to do as well. As I said, you're either going to need to go through a consulate. Usually that's how you do it. There's a lot of consulates in San Francisco. There's some in LA if you're down south as well. Sometimes you do most of your work online. It all really depends on the country that you're going to. Each country has a very different way of going about it. And research the visa process according to the consulate where you apply for your visa. So most of you are located in Northern California, so you'll probably need to go to the consulate in San Francisco, look at that website specifically, find out the documents you need. You'll be getting the documents from your host university once you are on record with them. And then once you have everything you need, just get that process started, because it'll take a little while. And the sooner you can start on it, the sooner you can get your visa and have that peace of mind. And like I said, everybody needs to get a student visa to study abroad. That's non-negotiable. So the next thing is about airfare. So the sooner you purchase your airfare, the cheaper it will be, usually. There's a lot of different websites out there. You can check for airfare. I use Kayak a lot. It's one I like to use. I think it's pretty good. Expedia, Priceline, Google Travel is another one. But basically, you don't need to get a visa to purchase your flight. And I would say that pretty much all of these programs, with the exceptions of the ones in Japan, which are kind of there's a little bit of uncertainty about those right now. But all the other programs are 95% going to be running. I know COVID has caused a lot of problems, but in a lot of different areas, study abroad being one of them. But for this fall, I'm almost positive that all of these programs, except for Japan, are going to run as usual. And so if you know that you're going to go abroad and you are 100% committed, then I would just advise you to buy your ticket as soon as you can, because the cost is going to go up the sooner you get the sooner that the departure date comes. And I would recommend trying to get to your host university with about a week or so in advance of when your program starts, so you have a little time to adjust. You have a little bit of time to get over your jet lag. It's not like you have to go and then the next day you're in class. So give yourself a little bit of a buffer before the program starts and when you arrive. Another thing you can do that I would recommend is research the housing options. If you want to apply for housing through the host university, they're going to give you some information about that. They'll give you different places you can live. They'll probably also give you an application and deadlines that you have to apply by. So, definitely adhere to those. It's really important to pay attention to when the host university needs things from you. You really want to make sure they stick to those deadlines. And you can refuse what the host university offers you. But if you do that, then just know that you're going to be on your own for finding housing. And, sometimes students don't have a problem with that. Sometimes they do. But just know that if you turn down housing, you're probably not going to be able to get another chance to reconsider. Another important thing at this point is to kind of like finalize your budget. I know that we have some good resources, and we kind of give you an outline for how much these programs are going to cost on our program pages on our website. But if you want to make it a little bit more personal, you can go ahead and put together a budget. So if you want to make it all inclusive, then the tuition costs, say in the Sac State, flights, you can kind of budget that when you find out what the cost is on those travel sites, visa and travel insurance, which I'll talk about a little bit later. That's going to, those things together are probably going to cost you $350 if you're going for a semester. If you're going for a year, it'll be more like $600. So just use that as a good base. Day-to-day cost, if you want to know how much things cost in the place that you're going to be going to, there's a really good website called Numbeo, and you can just like go there, and it's got prices for all kinds of different goods and transportation, housing, things like that. And you can just make yourself a day budget and kind of multiply that out for how long you're going to be there. Housing, the host university should tell you how much things are going to be when they offer you housing. But if you don't want to do that, then Craigslist, that has a lot of stuff, a lot of different ads on there, Airbnb as well. I would recommend, if you don't want to do the housing situation with your host university, probably the best thing to do is like get an Airbnb for a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and then just try to find housing when you're on the ground in the host country, because you don't want to try to be arranging housing with independent entities through the internet from another country. That's definitely not something I would encourage you to do. If you're going to do your own housing, get yourself a place temporarily, for when you arrive. And then once you get on the ground in a country, that's when you can find, what's out there, and it's a lot safer. It's way less likely you'll get scammed. So just keep that in mind as like a housing tip. And then in terms of the budget, the last thing that's going to be part of this is the travel budget. So, where do you want to go? What are your priorities for traveling? What sites are you really like, must-see sites for you? One thing I would say is try not to travel for at least the first month while you're abroad, because, there's several reasons. For one, you really want to get comfortable with the place that you're at. You want to be able to make some friends, get your network going, feel comfortable in the location, get familiar with it, and also figure out how much everything's going to cost. So if you go, like once you get to a new country, depending on how much you've traveled, one of the things that's going to be kind of a shock is when you actually have that currency, that country's currency in your hand, because it looks so different. And at first it doesn't even seem real. It just seems like kind of like, pretend money almost. And so you really want to like guard against that feeling and, remind yourself, these are dollars. They're just dollars in different form. And you've only got a limited amount of them. So you want to make sure that the money that you do have, regardless of what currency it's in, is going to be enough to last you the time you're going to be abroad. And the best way to do that is to figure out how much things are going to cost, where you live, get yourself a budget you can stick to, and then whatever excess you have, use that money to travel, and it can help you, make sure that you don't run out of money at the end, because that's not a position you want to be in. Okay, so those are the things that you want to focus on with the host university. As I said, right now it's more about corresponding with them, making sure you get your visa documents, getting the visa process started, getting your flight, getting the housing lined up, and budgeting. So those are the things you want to keep in mind. With us, with Sac State, there's some things that you have to do as well, and we'll go over this. As I said, I'm recording this, so if I'm talking too fast or you miss something, I can send you the link, and you can review it. Also have time for questions at the end here, but it's easier if I just go through this and then circle back around at the end. So first thing, you all have seen this form. It's your academic planning form. And all the classes you take overseas, if you want to get credit for them for specific Sac State stuff, you have to get them signed off by your academic department, either your advisor or your one of your professors. And it's pretty self-explanatory. You just write down the course you want to take abroad in the left side. You write down the course that you want to get Sac State credit for on the right side, and then you just ask them to sign off, and then you send it back to us. And you can get your classes approved up front if you have, you know, an advisor who's familiar with the program, if it's something that they've done in the past. Sometimes advisors don't want to sign off until you have the syllabus and the coursework. If that's the case, fine. You can get classes retroactively approved as well. So the different kinds of classes that you're going to want to get approvals for, major or minor classes, those are the ones you need to get approved by your department. So as I said, a professor or an academic advisor. If they're going to be GE classes, if you want to take GE classes overseas, check with us first, because the process is going to be different. You have to get them approved by the registrar's office after you come back to the US. But I can help you kind of identify potential classes that you can take for GE credit. So if you're going to be doing that, you know, talk to me about it, and we'll, you know, I'll kind of clue you in further about the process. Don't ask your department to sign off on GE classes because they can't do it. And then if it's just something you want to take for elective, like if it's something that you're interested in, like something you think is going to be, you know, kind of fun to take, but it's not going to, you know, count for anything in your major, or it's not going to be like a GE thing, then you don't need to get it approved. It'll just come back as a kind of generic, you know, study abroad class that you get credit for, but it just counts as units. It doesn't count as specific stuff. And again, you know, if you can get classes pre-approved by your department, great, that's fantastic. But if you can't, just save all your coursework, save all your syllabi, and you can usually, you know, for the most part, they'll approve the things when you get back and you show it to them. So save all that stuff because you know, it'll come in handy later down the line. Other things about classes, you got to stay in full-time status. So you're going to need to take at least 12 units no matter where you go. In some cases, you got to take at least 50, or you have to take 15 because it's a student visa requirement. So if you go to Denmark, if you're going to UK, France, I think too, like you got to take 15 units. But if you're going to Korea, then you've only got to take 12 because they don't have the same requirement. But you've got to take at least 12 because that'll keep you in compliance with Sac State. And sorry, that should say, using my old slides here, but you can take one online course at Sac State, SF State too, but some of you guys might know I worked at Sac or SF State before Sac State, so I need to update this this slide, obviously. But the same thing applies. If you're abroad and you want to take an online class at Sac State, then you can still, you can do that, but just know that the class is going to be in addition to, not in lieu of the classes you take overseas. So what that means is if you go to Korea and you're like, oh, I'll take 9 units in Korea and I'll take 3 on my online Sac State class, then, you know, that's not going to work because you still need to take the 12 in country. Other things that are important here, make sure you don't have any holds or unpaid fees. If you do have any holds on your account, you can check them in your student account. Please get those resolved, because what happens is when you go abroad, we have to ask the registrar's office to put you in these things called placeholder units. And they'll appear on your student center as that Reg 101. That'll indicate to you that you've been put in the placeholder units. And what those do is they just keep you enrolled at Sac State while you're abroad. And then when you come back, we take the units or the classes that you took overseas and we swap those out for the Reg 101 placeholders. And if you've got any financial holds on your account, we can't put you in the placeholders. It messes everything up. So make sure to get all that stuff resolved probably by, let's say early June is when I have to get you enrolled in the placeholders. So, you know, the sooner the better on Another big aspect of this is the financial aid. So you really have to plan on like when you're going to get your financial aid. That's a big part of study abroad, is like making sure that the financial aid lines up with when you need it. Um, Financial aid is distributed according to the usual timeline. So that means you get it right before the semester starts at Sac State. Um, and then you need to confirm the date of your disbursement with the financial aid office. So double check with them on when you can expect to get your financial aid distributed. And then this is really important: have enough savings on hand to cover like the first month of expenses in case there are any complications receiving your aid. We had somebody who went abroad this spring who didn't adhere to this. Oh, I'm not sure why that happened. Let me try that again. Sorry. Weird. Okay, sorry, I'm not sure what happened there. Anyway, okay, so as I was saying, this person had went abroad, didn't have any money, thought her financial aid was going to come through. It didn't, and then she was stuck, and eventually just ended up having to come home. So try to have some reserve money that's going to tide you over for at least the first few weeks. A month is ideal, because then if there's any complications, it's not going to be a big deal for you. I know some of you have to go abroad like earlier than Sac State starts. You might have a program starting in August, some of you even in July. So I'm going to try to work with financial aid to see if we can like approve you for advances. But that's something that's not been finalized yet. So if that applies to you and you're trying to get an advance on your financial aid, you can email me and I'll see what I can do with the financial aid office to maybe get you some of your money in advance, because I know that really helps for paying like housing, for paying for plane tickets and things like that. So keep that in mind. And I'll talk more about that on May 6th, because I'm going to have my meeting with financial aid next week, and I'll be able to kind of expand on that and hopefully have some good news. Another thing about financial aid is, so when you apply for your visa, you're going to have to show that you have enough money to live in this country for a semester or a year. So some students, that means they can, show a bank account. They can show their parents' bank account. Other students want to use their financial aid to show that they're going to be able to live abroad, which is fine. You can do that. But if you're going to do that, what I'd request that you do is print out your financial aid statement that you get off your student center, and then bring it to the study abroad office so that I can stamp it and I can certify it, and then you can use that to apply for your visa application. So I know some of you, you're independent, or maybe your family doesn't have much money, and so you can use your financial aid to meet this requirement of having enough money, but you have to come to our office and we have to like stamp it for you, and you can use that statement when you go to get your visa. So keep that in mind when it comes time to show you've got proof of resources to stay in the country. Okay, so moving on here, I know there's a lot of entertaining stuff. Travel insurance. So if for going on study abroad, everyone has to get what they call FTIP, so Foreign Travel Insurance Program. It's a CSU mandate. Everyone's got to get it. You use it for if you get like seriously injured overseas, or if for some reason you need to evacuate. It's not if you just want to go like get a physical, or you have a cold or something. Like it's more if something really serious happens. So you're going to need to submit your FTIP request form, which none of you have yet, but we'll talk more about this at May 6th as well, because I think this is one of the things we can do together. But just so you know it, just so you're aware of what, when I say FTIP, you can have some idea of it. You're going to fill it out and you're going to send it back to me, and then I have to send it to risk management on campus, they're the ones who issue the insurance. The main thing for you all is you've got to include the correct departure and arrival dates. because otherwise they don't issue the insurance and it's just kind of a hassle. You can get up to 14 days outside of the stated program dates where you can be insured by FTIP. So what I'm talking about here is, this is what the form looks like. As I said, we're just going to fill it out on May 6th because it's easier, but it'll say departure date. And a lot of you won't have your tickets yet, which is fine. So so for the departure date, I just want you to write 7 days prior to your program start date. And then for your return date, you just write 7 days after your program end date. So keep that in mind. If you don't have your exact dates yet, it's not a problem. But that's how you want to do that. And we'll talk a little bit more about filling this out. If you have, places you're going to go visit, then you're going to want to put, personal travel, probably like, you can just put yes. And then if you put how many days, 14, because 14 is what you get. So we'll talk about this later. And if you have questions, I know it's a little bit confusing, so we'll just circle back around to it. But again, we'll go into more detail about this on May 6th. In terms of the cost for this foreign travel insurance program, usually between $250 for the semester and $500 for the year. So factor that into your budget. You don't actually have to cut a check to risk management. They'll just bill the bursar, and then you got to pay the bursar's office. And then lastly, I don't know if this is going to apply to anybody, but if you plan to travel outside of your coverage dates, then you need to purchase supplemental insurance. That means if you're going to be traveling, let's say like your program ends, let's say you're going for the year and your program ends on, May 31st. And you're like, oh, I want to go traveling all summer. You can only get 14 days outside of your program date. So if you're going to, travel for like 2 months, then you need to get supplemental insurance to travel. So the Seven Corners Travel Insurance, they're a company that Sac State students have used previously, and that's only for like personal travel outside of the window that FTIP gives you. This is something separate. Okay, we're getting through this. So one other thing that you guys all need to keep in mind is that you have to be vaccinated to go abroad. You've got to either have, and that means, you've got to have the 2-dose vaccination series of Moderna or Pfizer, or if you got the Johnson & Johnson, then just the one. And you also have to have a booster shot if you're eligible. And being eligible means you, more than 6 months have gone by since you completed the initial vaccine series. When we have our orientation on May 6th, please bring your COVID-19 vaccination card so I can look at it and mark down that you are vaccinated and you meet the requirement. Because if you don't meet the requirement, then risk management won't give you insurance. And if you don't get insurance, then you can't go abroad. So, if you want to go abroad, you got to get vaccinated, and that's just how things are in 2022. So next thing, medical checkups. If some countries will want you to submit a medical checkup as part of your visa applications, like Japan is one of them. But that's not true for every country, and we're not requiring you to get a medical checkup. It's optional. But I would recommend doing it just to make sure you're in like good health and you don't have any like unknown problems before you go abroad, because you don't want to find that out when you're overseas. You'd rather like find out here. So I would recommend everybody like just schedule an appointment to get a physical checkup with their doctor and say, hey, I'm going abroad, I just want to make sure I'm like healthy. You don't have to, but again, it's always a good idea, especially if you have insurance. Use it. So that's just kind of, general advice. Okay, cool. So that's pretty much all the information you need for the moment. All the other things we're going to talk about during the pre-departure orientation. We're going to talk about more, what you're going to experience when you go to another country, some of the culture shock stages, all those kind of things. But for the moment, I think if you can just stick to corresponding with the host university, getting all that stuff squared away, getting your documents so you can apply for your visa, starting the visa process, getting a plane ticket. Once you've started the visa process, I'd say that's a good time to get your plane ticket once you got that moving. And then, working on your class approvals, if you can do that as well. The insurance stuff, we won't worry too much about that until after May 6th, but I just wanted to put it on your radar so you knew about it. And then the financial aid as well, just kind of knowing, how that fits into this puzzle also. So again, May 6th, we're going to talk more about this stuff. We're either going to have the orientation on in our global lounge, which some of you may know, it's the building right next to, or it's the room right next to our office between Grumpy Mule and the Passport Place in the library. But we're also trying to reserve a room in the Union because there's going to be about 50 people coming. So if we could have a bigger room, that would be ideal. But I'll send follow-up emails to all of you about this, this orientation. So just for right now, just keep the date and the time in mind, and we'll get the details later. Cool. So that's about it. And yeah, so I'm going to turn it over to you all for questions. You can either ask questions in the chat, or if you want to just unmute yourself and ask a question, that's fine too. I would say, please, like when you have a question though, just put it in the chat box, like to everybody, because you probably all have similar questions. So if people are just, sending them to me directly, then we don't have the benefit of like everyone seeing it. So, so go ahead, I'll turn it open to you. Okay, Zarina, you've got a question. The program date start and end dates will be when our school dates start. Yeah, so the program dates will are for the individual program you're going to, not Sac State. So it'll be like, for people going to Oxford Brooks, it'll be starting like end of September, probably September 20th about, and then getting done. I think they usually get done in January, but it's all going to be in the information that they give you after you submit your host application. They send you the acceptance documents. They'll have the dates on that, on those documents. You have to register for fall 22 classes. I would say no, but if you were really wanting to get peace of mind and you want to give yourself a plan B, then yes. But the thing is, you're going to have to drop the classes in order for us to put you in the placeholder units. So, you can, but just know that you should be ready to drop them. And also, like, for Sac State, I've noticed that they only let you drop classes at certain times. And so it's easier for us if you don't register for classes, because then we can like put you in the placeholder units. I would say if you're fully committed and you're not going to Japan, then don't worry about registering for fall classes. Do you have to buy a round ticket? You can buy one at a time, although round trip usually is cheaper than one way. And you can also just, but make sure if you're going to do that, then you can change it. It'll give you a change date at the end, but you can buy, you can do it however you want. If you get a Cal Grant, yeah, as long as so all the financial aid that you get for Sac State normally will come through as it does, just the same way. The only difference is like, the only thing that you don't get is work study, but everything else, yeah, that's going to come through as normal. When are you expected to hear from your programs? I would say probably for early May. You guys should all hear from them back by early May, because a lot of you, the deadline for when I have to submit documents is April 30th. So even though for some of you have already submitted things, they're just waiting and they'll contact you like early May. So if you haven't heard anything by the last week of April, don't worry. But if you haven't heard anything by mid-May, let me know, and because that could be part of a problem. But let's say first week of May, you should all hear by your programs at the latest. Nia, if you're going to plan to stay for an extra week after semester abroad, you don't need to let us know, but you can, yeah. So you should be able to use FTIP for that, because like, let's say your program date ends, like, January 10th, yeah, then you get 7 more days after the program end date that FTIP will cover. So yeah, you don't need to let us know, but you can, your FTIP will cover you for that. Just make sure you put that date on the form when you buy insurance. Sally, so you pay tuition Sac State. Yes, you pay tuition. So the only thing you're going to pay to your host country, to the host university, is the housing. But tuition you're going to pay to us as usual, and then housing you pay to them, and then insurance you pay to Sac State. Most of the time, you might have to pay insurance to the host university as well, depending on where you go. I know Japan, you have to do that, but sometimes you don't. It's just you'll find that out once you get acceptance.
Hey Jeff, when you get the chance, can I ask a question about Japan specifically?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead, Gage, and I'll just I'll highlight that for myself. Go ahead, Gage.
Okay, so you were saying that basically every program is like 95% on track to like actually take place except for Japan. So I don't think I heard you correctly. Did you say that if you're fully committed on going to Japan, like don't bother registering for classes next semester, or what should we do?
Oh, for Japan? No, if you're going to Japan, register for classes, because that's the only one I don't feel that confident about. But that's mainly because the Japanese government is going so slow with issuing visas. So for you, if you guys are going to Japan, like we'll talk. We'll keep in touch, because that one is a little bit of a wild card. Giovanni, the course approval form is just in the application that you turn in.
Okay, I actually had a question about like financial aid. So you mentioned that the study abroad program will place like placeholder classes in our registration.
Yeah.
But like, for example, my program wouldn't start till after Sac State starts. So would those placeholders be in place, and then once I actually like enroll in the classes in the country, then my Cal Grant would come through and cover them? Or I don't know exactly how that would work, but.
So think of the placeholder units as your registration for Sac State. So in normal times, we would put you in the placeholder units like the end of May or like early June. So then you're registered for classes at Sac State. And then because you're registered for classes at Sac State, then your financial aid will just get, it'll just get distributed as it usually would. But the tricky part is some of the, and then, for your classes that you take in Spain, those don't get swapped out of with the placeholder units until after you get back. So it's kind of a little bit different. For your financial aid, the important thing is the placeholder units. But as I was saying earlier about the semester is not always lining up, and some people, wanting to use financial aid early because their programs start early. That's where I want to talk to I need to talk to the financial aid next week and see if we can work something out where for those students, maybe they can get part of their aid early so they can cover like some of these upfront costs. But I don't know about that quite yet. I'll tell you more about that when I know more on May 6th. But for you, just, once you get put in the placeholder units, that's like the trigger to financial aid to be like, okay, this person's going to be taking classes in the fall. Avasha, and let me get to Avasha, and Ethan, you can do that. So
thank you.
You have to get supplemental insurance if you're going to travel like more than 7 days after your program end dates, because that's all they're going to give you for FTIP. So if you want to go for like 2 months, if you want to go travel around Europe or something, which is fine, definitely not opposed to that. But just know that FTIP's not going to cover you to do that. You have to get like supplemental insurance after that. Okay, Ethan, I cut you off.
Yeah, no problem. Do we will we need a work permit while we're over there, or is that included in the student visa?
You'll, I'm not, that's so, uh, you're gonna need this, everyone's just gonna need the student visa straight off the bat because that's why you're over there to study. But some countries, and I'm not sure if Germany's one, it might be, but some countries will let you get work permissions tacked onto the student visa, but you're gonna have to ask about that. I think once you get there, because I think to do that, you need to actually have like a job offer. But if
Okay.
you, yeah, to like alter your student visa status, you would need to work with like immigration in the country once you get there. So for right now, just focus on getting the student visa.
Okay. Is there anything else we should bring May 6th besides that vaccination card?
No, all the stuff I need you to sign, I'm just gonna bring. So don't worry about that. But yeah, just just bring your smiling faces and your vaccination cards.
Okay, thank you.
So someone raised a hand and I can't read Japanese, but so,
Hi, my name is Nico, and I had a question about
sure.
my university in Japan.
Yeah, go for it.
So I understand that we have to wait for our host colleges to get in contact with us to give us, more likely than not, our letters of recommendation. I know that for myself, in order to apply for the student visa, and I know since I'm going to Japan specifically, I also need my physical as a part of this process. And I was also wondering, on top of those two things, what else do I need besides like minor things like my passport, etc.?
Well, for you, I mean, you basically, I mean, I can't remember, did you do your physical for Japan?
There wasn't a physical that was required on my process for the form that I filled out that I had sent to the school. But it sounds like I need it for the process for my student visa for when I go to the consulate.
Yeah, I think you're gonna need that. I mean, you could just go to like the student health center. I think they'll do it. They'll just kind of give you like, it's just a sheet. But I think the thing is and this applies to everybody who's going to Japan, like the universities don't know right now if they're going to be able to get you visas. So they're collecting the documents and they're hoping for the best, but they don't know yet. And so that's why, I mean, I wish I had better information, but they're just kind of like waiting to see if they're going to be able to do this. And they don't want to cancel things too early, but they're also like, not really able to do much beyond like what they're doing now. So just, I think for you, like the only thing you'd really have to do in terms of like what you can do is, get a physical once they tell you, okay, yeah, you're good to go. Like just, do, at least we're in that part of the process. So go ahead and do that. And I know it's frustrating because nobody likes to just wait and not know what's going on. But, for that one, for Japan right now, there's really not much else we can do.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
When we give you guys an estimate of our budget and whatnot when we go overseas, can we include amounts we expect to earn while we're overseas?
Well, you all don't need to worry about the budget anymore because it's now the budget's more for you. It's more about what you think you're going to spend, what you think you're going to have access to, but you don't need to like give us a budget. But in terms of like showing financial resources and showing that you're able to live overseas based on, they're going to ask you like, do you have this much money to, for the time you're going to be there? Then it's like the money that you have on hand right now, or the money that you expect to get in financial aid, or a combination of the two. But you can't use like expected earnings in the future.
Okay. And then, sorry, one more thing. Do we have the option of, is there a time limit? I mean, in terms of how early we leave? I mean, do we have to leave a week before the program starts, or can we leave like 2 weeks or a month before?
You can leave. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you're all adults. You can leave whenever you want. The only thing is if you leave like a month early, let's say, then the F-tip, that insurance isn't going to cover you for that long. And so you can either just go, and like hope that nothing happens to you. Or you can get like that supplemental insurance that I mentioned earlier and like get insured for like 3 weeks until your regular F-tip insurance kicks in. And if you do that, then you have to, like, we want you to sign like a liability form too, because, it's America and everybody loves a lawsuit. So that's another thing we're going to talk about at the May 6th. But yeah, I mean, you guys are all adults. You can do, what you want. It's not North Korea. But if you, if you're doing that, then you just know that your travel insurance from the school doesn't start until like that week before you go.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Giovanni, do you have another question?
Yeah, it's as far, I know we talked about like the travel insurance, but as far as like regular, like if we're there and we need to like see a doctor for like whatever reason,
Yeah.
how should we go about that? Is it like it is here, like we could visit the student center if they even have that, or like how does that work?
Yeah, they should have a student health center you can go to. And then I'd have to look at the Spain, but you might just, a lot of these countries have like universal coverage. So like you just get health insurance based on the fact that you're a student for like, for pretty inexpensive. Like if you have a cold or like strep throat or something and you just need to go some medicine, it's usually like, you pay out of pocket and it's not too much. You can, if you wanted to, you could try to get your travel insurance to reimburse you the cost of that. But the travel insurance is really more for like I said, for like emergencies or like some serious problem. You got like you break your leg or something. So if you're just sick, like I would say most of these universities are going to have like student health centers. Some of them might even have a hospital on campus. But you're going to want to check with the international office too of the school that you're going to go to, because this is something that comes up all the time and it's always going to be different depending on where you go. But you'll be able to access like basic medical care in these countries and it's not going to be prohibitively expensive.
Is everyone else done with their questions? Sorry, I just had one.
Oh, it's fine. Yeah, it's a free for all. So just jump in.
Okay. I just wanted to ask. I might not be able to make it to. I have a work orientation for that whole week, the first week of May, so I might not be able to make it to that meeting. Would it be possible for me to get the information some other way? Maybe like, because I know it's not going to be recorded like this.
Yeah. Just you can email me. I haven't thought about that yet.
Okay.
Esmeralda, I'm not really quite sure about your question.
I was just curious to know if there was a difference between the travel insurance and the health insurance, if we were required to also purchase health insurance.
No, you're only required to purchase that F-tip travel insurance.
Okay.
So in terms of money, like it depends. Like that's where you have to look. That's where like when you research the visa process, and also once you get your acceptance documents from wherever you've applied to, they'll tell you like you need to show that you have this much money to cover this length of time. So it's all different, and it's all depending on what country you end up going to.
So we don't need to show you guys proof of health insurance?
No, you only need to get that. I mean, if you want to get insurance, like that's fine. But for as far as like I'm concerned, and as far as Sac State's concerned, the only insurance that you need is this FTIP insurance, because that's, it's more for like, like I said, if you get like really seriously injured, or, like you're in like North Korea, or in Korea, and like North Korea attacks or something, and you have to get like evacuated. Like things like that, like really kind of like big things. One of the things too, like that you have to remember is, and this will probably apply to a lot of you, like if you're on your parents' health insurance coverage, like your American health insurance coverage doesn't necessarily pay for things in other countries. Like you're not going to go there and pull out your Blue Shield card and it's going to be the same, right? It's going to be like, and even the travel insurance, like that stuff is, you have to like, you get billed, and then you take that documentation and then you send it into the travel insurance company, and they have to like pay you back the money. So hopefully that doesn't happen to any of you. Like hopefully you don't have to use the travel insurance, but it's not like you go somewhere and you like show them an insurance card. It's more like, you get billed, and then you take the billing, and then you send that to your travel insurance company, and they cut you the check. It's like making an insurance claim. That's what that is. So just keep that in mind, that it's, if you're gonna try to minimize having to go to the doctor when you're abroad. And if you do, like then you're just going to be going through like the health insurance system of the country that you're in. And for the most part, you'll be getting like student health insurance just from, the fact that you're studying in a country that has socialized medicine.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Jeff, thank you so much for your time. I have to go.
Okay, yeah, no worries.
Is that okay?
Yeah, if you
All right.
guys are done, I mean, if you don't have any questions, like feel free to cut out. But I'll just stick around in case anyone else does have questions.
Thank you so much for all your help. We
Oh, yeah,
really
you're
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right.
Cool.
Have a good day, Jeff.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, see ya.
Later.
Regarding like the consulates, would we have to go to like for me, I would have to go to the French consulate, or just a consulate in San Francisco?
Well, I mean, the French consulate is in San Francisco.
Okay.
But I
So
would
we
say
just
for you, like look into like French student visa process, because it's kind of like the French one's a little bit involved. And so you want to have an idea of like what you got to do, because you have to do,
Okay.
it's like this online registration thing. And so look into that, and then, just kind of give yourself an idea of what you're going to need to do.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
I had a question, and maybe, so the way the semester works in Spain, I would be coming back in the kind of in February, which is already into the semester at Sac State. And so I just want to clarify, I would just be missing the rest of that semester. Like there's no way to pick up the semester. No. Okay.
I don't know. I mean, maybe you could, you'd have to contact the professors and just be like, hey, can I, I'm in Spain, I'm on this program. And I mean, keep in mind too, that's the absolute latest date that they'll go to, that you might have finals before that. So
Okay.
You really just are going to you could do both. You could see what the finals are going to be. Maybe you can arrange to take them virtually as well. Who knows? Contact your professors of classes you want to take at Sac State, and then, say, let them know what's going on, and maybe they cut you a break. So there's like, you know, don't rule things out like off the bat, because there's a lot of ways you can make it work. You just have to kind of like, you know, be creative and not be afraid to ask like, hey, this is what's going on for me. Can you help me out a little bit? And just see like, you know, and just see what people are willing to do for you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
For the medical checkup, does it include like TB testing and things like that?
It depends. Like what I would say is like, look at the country that you're going to and see what the requirements are for the visa, and then let that dictate what kind of physical you need to get. Because not like for Japan, for example, like you don't need that, but you need like a medical checkup. So that's going to be something where you just want to look and see what the visa requirements are, and then use that to inform what kind of medical, you know, checkup you need to request.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.